Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Ever wonder what really goes on behind the scenes in local government? We hear about the big scandals, sure, but sometimes the most, fascinating stuff is buried in public reports right under our noses. Today we're diving into a stack of documents about the village of Westchester, Illinois. We're going to unpack this investigation into their former village manager, Paul Nosek. It looks like a whole web of, well, questionable bids, spending, and some pretty surprising personal ties.
It really is a compelling case study. Accountability, right? We'll be looking at excerpts from an investigative report, memos, financial reviews, all thanks to a listener. Our job is to pull out the key bits, connect the dots, and see what it all means.
Okay, let's get into it. The listener's documents really lay things out, and the whole thing seems to unravel starting with, believe it or not, a bathtub. It kicked off in early May 2022. An employee from Public Works met privately with the Acton Village manager, Gregory Freibel.
Yeah, and this employee, who becomes a key witness, basically says his supervisor, Scott Russell, told him back in 2020 to use a village credit card to buy a bathtub.
A bathtub? For who?
For the then village manager, Paul Nosek. For Nosek's personal home in North Riverside, the employee said he even delivered and installed it himself.
Wow. Okay, and do we know the specifics, like how much, where?
Oh yeah, very specific. Ferguson Plumbing Supply, October 2020. Cost was $11,139.42. And it was charged to a village utility fund, specifically one meant for materials at the Crestwood facility.
That is specific. That level of detail must have helped the investigators.
Absolutely. It gives immediate credibility. And it provides a clear paper trail to follow, which is crucial for verifying claims like this. It definitely backed up the employee's story.
Right, so why did this employee wait, almost 2 years to come forward? That must have been weighing on him.
It sounds like it was. He basically said he knew it was wrong, it bothered him for years, affected his work, his family life. He claimed he felt forced into it.
Forced? How so?
He described a situation where employees who didn't let's say, play ball or do these personal favors for Nosek faced consequences. Things like being denied promotions or overtime, or even facing unsafe or, frankly, humiliating work conditions.
Okay, so there was pressure. Did he think coming forward would protect him?
He hoped it might, yeah. Even though he was scared of retaliation, the report actually notes they found him credible, forthcoming, remorseful.
Okay, so what about the supervisor, Scott Russell, the one who allegedly gave the order? What was his story?
Well, Russell's response was interesting. Initially, he denied knowing anything about the bathtub purchase.
Even though it was on his village credit card.
Exactly. Then later, the report says he sort of smiled and said he just assumed the tub went to Nosek's house. His story apparently changed multiple times.
That doesn't sound good.
No. The investigation ultimately concluded he was not a credible witness. They called him evasive, inconsistent, and they even said he tried to obstruct things by telling the employee who bought the tub to lie about it.
Whoa, trying to get him to lie. That definitely raises red flags.
Right.
So beyond just changing his story, actively trying to cover it up.
That's what the report alleges, yes. It moves it from just being inconsistent to potential obstruction, which investigators take very seriously.
Okay, so the bathtub was the trigger.
Yeah.
But it sounds like that was just scratching the surface.
Oh, definitely. It opened up a whole lot more. Turns out, the same whistleblower employee said that both Russell and Nosek had approached him around 2020 about working on a major renovation at Nosek's personal home.
A major renovation, like more than just installing a tub.
Much more. We're talking demolition, building an addition. Initially, the employee worked on it after his village shift ended. Okay, maybe questionable, but off the clock.
But then,
according to the employee, Russell told him to kick it up, told him to start going over to Nosek's house at 11 a.m.
11 a.m. during the workday.
While on the clock for the village, yes. And Russell supposedly shifted this employee's regular village duties to other workers so he could be at Nosek's. The employee estimated he put in about $3,000 to $4,000 worth of unpaid labor just on Nosek's house.
So village employees doing private construction work on village time for the village manager?
Yeah.
That's quite an allegation. And Nosek knew this was happening during work hours.
The report is pretty clear on that. It says Nosek was in and out of the house, knew the employee was there during the village workday, and it gets even more tangled.
How so?
Remember Scott Russell, the supervisor? Well, a friend of his who pops up in other questionable deals with Nosek also apparently remodeled Nosek's bathroom for free.
For free. There's that phrase again. It makes you wonder what free really means in these contexts. What does this pattern suggest to you?
Well, it suggests a potential pattern of using public position and resources for private gain. It often starts small, blurring lines, maybe favors here and there, but it can create this culture where, like the whistleblower said, people feel pressured to go along. It's a classic sign of potential soft corruption.
And did these connections spill over into actual village business, like contracts?
It seems so. The investigation looked into a municipal office project, one that eventually got scrapped. Some demolition work for that project went to a firm in Lockport.
Let me guess. Run by the friend.
Run by that same friend of Russell's, yes. This firm first bid almost $70,000. Then they withdrew that bid and resubmitted one for $55,000.
And that made them the lowest bidder.
It did, though they wouldn't have been the lowest with their original bid. Now, the report says there was no direct evidence found of collusion. But the circumstances, they definitely raise questions about the bidding process.
You think? And there was more with this friend.
Yeah, his company also apparently had a no-bid deal to plow snow for the village.
A no-bid snow plowing contract. So no competition, just handed the work. That doesn't exactly scream transparency, does it?
Not usually, no. Especially when it involves personal connections. It erodes public trust when processes aren't open and competitive.
So the investigation wasn't just about Nosek's house or these friends. It looked more broadly at how things were run under Nosek,
Yeah.
like that office project.
Exactly. The report explicitly states findings that Nosek allegedly mismanaged that whole project, that he withheld information from the elected village board, gave them inaccurate info sometimes, and repeatedly got around the village's own procurement policies.
He went around the rules.
Well,
How?
the report suggests he found ways to avoid formal bidding or approval processes. The result, according to the findings, was that the board sometimes made decisions based on incomplete or just plain wrong information. They seem to defer a lot to Nosek's judgment without asking the tough questions.
So a potential breakdown in oversight from the top down. What are the typical weak spots in procurement that allow this kind of thing?
Often it's about thresholds. Rules might say anything over $10,000 needs 3 bids. So maybe work gets broken down into smaller chunks under $10,000. Or maybe there's just too much discretion given to one person without strong checks. And if the board itself isn't digging in, asking questions, demanding full information, well, things can slip through.
Right. Now, back to Scott Russell, the public works supervisor. It wasn't just the bathtub or directing work at Nosek's house, right? The report looked into him personally, too.
It did. His own hiring, for instance. He got the job back in 2012, found out about the opening through his brother-in-law.
Okay. And who was the brother-in-law?
Paul Gattuso,
Uh-huh.
the former mayor of Westchester.
Ah, okay. Coincidence, perhaps?
Perhaps. Then later, Russell gets promoted to Director of Public Works in 2019. And the report notes this kind of unusual change made to the union contract around that time. It allowed him to return to his union job with seniority if he left the director position within 5 years.
That seems convenient. Did Russell say Gattuso helped with the promotion?
He claimed Gattuso wasn't involved. But, like you said, the timing and the connections are certainly noted in the report.
And what about his spending? You mentioned his credit card was used for the tub. Did they look at other purchases?
Oh, yes. They did a financial review of his village credit card, looked at about $62,000 in spending, found some pretty big red flags.
Like what?
Well, for starters, nearly $14,000 of that was spent on weekends or holidays, which, can happen, but it's something to look at. More significantly, about $21,000 worth of purchases across 120 different transactions had no receipts submitted.
$21,000 with no receipts. How does that even happen with public money?
That's the question, isn't it? The village had a policy, apparently. Approval forms needed for anything over $2,500. That wasn't followed for at least 2 purchases on Russell's cards either.
What was Russell's explanation for all this? The weekend spending, the missing receipts.
He claimed he never got proper training on how to use the credit card. And he also said other people sometimes used his cards.
So basically lack of training and blaming others. Did the review find that plausible?
It certainly highlights a major potential gap in internal controls. Either the rules weren't clear or they weren't enforced. When you have that much spending without documentation, it's impossible to really track where the money went. It's a huge vulnerability.
And did Russell also use village employees for his own personal benefit, like Nosek allegedly did?
The whistleblower alleged that too, yes. Said he performed work on Russell's son's house remodel.
Oh, come on. More free labor.
That's the claim. A basement bathroom, repiping an upstairs bathroom. This was a few months after the work at Nosek's house. Again, estimated labor value around $1,000. And again, the employee said some of it was done after hours, but some was also done during village work hours, punching in and out. And he wasn't paid for this work either.
It just seems like a pattern, doesn't it? Blurring the lines between public duty and private favors.
It really does paint a picture of a potential systemic issue, right? Where people entrusted with public resources maybe started using them for personal benefit. And when the oversight isn't there, or maybe people feel pressured like that whistleblower did, it can apparently just continue. It really damages trust.
So let's try and wrap this up. What are the big takeaways here for you, our listener? I mean, this deep dive into Westchester paints a pretty concerning picture, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Alleged personal connections, misconduct, all tangled up with running a village.
Right. And it's important to note the criminal probe only led to one charge against Russell for the bathtub, none against Nosek. But this investigative report itself laid bare what it calls numerous systemic problems. Things that, on paper, probably shouldn't have happened or should have been caught way earlier.
It makes you think. This case is specific to Westchester, obviously.
Mhm.
But the issues it raises feel kind of universal.
Absolutely. It's a stark reminder for any community, really. The need for constant vigilance, strong oversight, clear accountability for how public money is spent and public resources like employee time are used. Transparency isn't just some nice idea, it's fundamental.
Yeah. So when you see systems that are supposed to protect public funds seemingly vulnerable like this, what does that mean for you, the citizen? If a single bathtub purchase could unravel all of this, what else might be hiding in plain sight in local government records? Maybe the bigger question is, what role do we all have in making sure these kinds of deep dives aren't even necessary in the first place? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you feel a little more well-informed.